Today I got 3 awesome projects for you, but make sure you watch to the end because I have a great way to preserve them, just in case you put them outside. For our first project, we're going to need one 2x4. You will need 2 boards at 20 inches, 2 boards at 12, but also want to mention that these were used off of a previous project, so if by chance you have any leftover scrap, use those. Even if it has some screw holes in it, it'll be okay. So those are at 12, and then you need 2 triangle here, so it'll be 3.5 by 3.5, cut at a 45-degree angle. Now take one of your 20-inch boards and your 2 triangles, and we want to attach them right here on the ends, making sure that the slope sides are facing each other, and you can glue these together or screw them together. That's up to you. Quick tip, it's a good idea to pre-drill these holes since we're real close to the edge. Then grab your 2 12-inch boards, and we want to find center, which will be 6 inches, and then make a mark. Then pull your 12-inch boards apart a little bit, and you want to take the 20-inch board with the triangles, and you want to center up the center of these triangles here on the center of the line. Now this does not have to be perfect, but you do want it to get pretty close. And once you have them in position, we need to secure them to this lower board, and you can screw them or glue them, that's up to you. Now that we have the lower boards attached, we can now attach the second 20-inch board, about the same as the first, but in this case, do not attach it to that triangle. We actually want to have about a 1/4 inch of separation there, and I'll explain that in just a second. And there is the finished product. Can you guess what it is? If you said bike holder, you are correct. Now, the reason why I had the gap there is that my tires are 1 3/4 inches. Your tires might be 1.5 inches, your tires might be 2 inches. So that second board that we're attaching, you may have to vary that a little bit accordingly, just to make sure everything fits. So let's go take it out and test it out. Okay, kickstand off, tire in. Oh yeah, it sits in there nicely. Let's see, rocking that pretty good, and it stays in there. That's perfect. Here's you a different angle. It's in the stand. The kickstand is off and it's standing up by itself. If by chance your bike is still a little top heavy and it wants to fall over, you can always extend out these bottom boards a little bit further and that should stabilize it. Or you could always extend it out real far and build 2 of these into one big set, and that'll give it a lot of strength. For our next project, we're gonna need a total of 12 2x4s. Yes, I know that sounds like a lot of wood. This is a big project, but it's still easy to put together. Alright, here's the wood. It's a lot, so be prepared. We have 2 boards. We left it the full 8 feet or 96 inches. We cut 4 of them down to 78 inches. We cut 4 of them down to 48 inches. We cut 10 of them down to 21 inches. And here's the tricky one. We cut 4 of these down to 23 inches, but that's on the long side here. Each of these sides have a 45-degree angle going towards each other. And again, the measurement for 23 inches is from the long side to each side. Now I've set all the wood to the side except for these 78-inch long pieces. Look at both ends, figure out side which is the pretty side, which is the ugly. Put the ugly towards the bottom because the pretty needs to go towards the top. Then, once you figure that out, go grab a pocket hole jig. I know not everybody has one of these. You can buy these relatively inexpensively. I'll put a link in the description just in case you're interested. We want to put 2 pocket holes in the top of each of these boards. Just in case you're wondering, I actually had to put mine on the floor because I don't have enough ceiling room in my shop. Then we're going to lay out 2 of these boards on a nice flat surface. We want to make sure that the pocket holes are on the same side and they're facing one another. This will be considered the top where the pocket holes are. So we're going to measure and make several marks from there. First it'll be at 12 inches, then 25, then 38, 51, and 64. And once we have those marks in place, we need to start grabbing the 21-inch boards because we want to align those so that the top of these boards will be in alignment with those marks. So in other words, right about there. And once we have everything in place and we know it is square, we're going to add 2 screws from the outside on each side. And once you have all 5 screwed in, it should look something like this. Now once you have this side complete, we need to repeat this process so that we have 2 identical, well, what looks like ladders. With our ladders now complete, I'm going to set those to the side and I'm going to grab the 48-inch long pieces. I'm also going to grab a compass and a measuring tape, and we're going to set the compass at about 2 inches, because on the end of each of these boards, actually on both ends of each of these, we're going to take our compass and we're going to make a quarter of a circle right around here and cut this out to make it look really pretty. Now that I have all the lines in place, I'm going to use a jigsaw to cut these out. If by chance you don't have a jigsaw or you just don't want to do this step, you don't have to. I'm just trying to make this look a little more fancy. And with these now complete, I'm going to grab the 8-foot long boards and do the same. Just remember, you want these curves on both ends of your boards. Now that we have the ends on the 8-foot boards cut, we need to make sure that the open side, the piece we just cut, is facing down, because the other side is going to be the top. Then get your measuring tape, and we're going to measure in 14 inches and 36 inches on each of these boards, coming in from both ends. That way we don't get these mixed up. So 14 and then 36. Now looking at this board, you'll notice this is quite ugly. This is just a bad finish from the factory, and it happens like that sometimes. I'm just going to face that to the inside of our project so it's less likely to be seen. I'm also going to cover this up later. For our next step, I transferred that mark, the 14 and the 36, to the side of our board and made a line, just to make it a little bit easier to see. I also put an arrow facing toward the top so there's no chance I get that mixed up. We need a pocket hole here just toward the inside of that line, or towards the center of the board. And so we want one hole going straight up so we can connect something on the top. And just remember, you only need one hole. And while we have the pocket hole jig out, let's go ahead and grab those 23-inch boards, you know, the ones with the 45-degree angles on each side. And we want to actually put pocket holes, 2 of them, on each end, making sure they're on the same side. At this point, I don't have enough room left in my shop to assemble this. This is going to be a pretty good size unit, so let's take all this out to my carport and assemble it there. And as I stepped outside, it has started to rain. So if you hear a little bit of noise in the background, I'm sorry, that's what I got to work with. Now I've taken both of the ladders and laid them on their sides, and I'm aligning them with that 14-inch line that we did earlier. 14 inches from the end here. If you notice, it is to the inside of that line. So we're gonna make this side of the ladder the outside, and it'll be right in alignment with that line we did earlier. And so there's no confusion, that curve or cut we did earlier is going to be facing towards the ground or towards the bottom. Once you have the top connected on both sides, you want to then take one of the boards that has the 45-degree angles on it, and you want to attach it in this position here. This will give a lot more strength to that connection, and it shouldn't flex nearly as much. Now my floor is really uneven, so you may have to take that into consideration and make sure everything lines up as best as possible. Now we can flip this up and over and do the other side. If you haven't guessed already, we built an arbor, but we've yet to put the pieces across the top, so it still looks a little bit plain. Let me attach those and it should look really good. And to attach those boards over top, we're going to use that single pocket hole that we drilled earlier. And I almost forgot to mention, make sure that the curve is on the bottom side, just like it is on the ends. And it's finally finished. I'm 5'11", so this right here is supposed to be 6'6". Gives me plenty of headroom. I don't have to worry about hitting my head unless I'm real close to the corners, which I doubt that'll happen. And now maybe I need a bench or something to stick right under here to really set it off. But overall, I hope you like it. Here's one more view for you to give you a better look. I'll do a partial walk around too, so you can see how the curves in that wood really look good. I think it looks a lot better than it would if it was just going to be squared off pieces. For project number 3, I wanted to build something I've never built before. And I recently saw a picture of a curved bench. But not just any curved bench. All the cuts on the wood were at 90 degrees. Wait, how can you have 90-degree cuts and have a curved bench? Yeah, it kind of amazed me too. I figured it'd be a great project for us to do. I believe I'm only going to need 5 2x4s with this and some scrap left over from other projects. Now if you don't have any scrap left over, I suggest probably getting a 6 board. And here's everything we've cut out. I have 24 pieces at 18 inches long. 23 at 3.5 by 3.5, and 23 at about 3/4 of an inch thick. Now after cutting out all these little pieces, which is what I saw in a picture, drilling or screwing into end grain is usually not the best idea. It just doesn't usually hold up as well. Now, if by chance you have some furring strips and you can cut out a bunch of, say, 3.5 inch long furring strips, going into that side grain should give you a lot more strength than the end grain. But since we have these already cut out, let's try this project. To assemble this, we need a good, flat, hard surface to do that on. Plus, I'm thinking about using some glue, so I'm gonna add some plastic just in case so it doesn't stick to everything. Now the plan is to take 2 of these boards and one of the small ones and put it up front, and one of the larger ones and put it in the back. And then we wanna just sandwich these together. And once you get it roughly in place, you'll notice there's a little gappage around the back, a little gappage around the front. I mean, we're trying to angle something that is squared off already, so there's gonna be a little bit of gappage as we do this. But let's give this a shot. Out of all these pieces, I have a feeling that this small one is definitely going to break the fastest if it does break. So I'm gonna use a little glue on both sides of this just to hopefully give it a little more strength. And there is the glue. We are going to stick it right here in the center, try and get everything lined up as quick as possible. And then we're gonna use a clamp to just hold it in position. And with the clamp on the front, I really don't even need a clamp on the back. It's kind of holding everything together. And I'm not planning on putting any glue on the back because I think it's gonna be strong enough. So let's pre-drill some holes going on each side and screw this together. Now when it comes for the holes on the smaller side, I decided to countersink these so that the screws that I'm using, which are only 2.5, will reach further in and hopefully grab a lot better. You don't have to do this, but you can if you want. Also, if you by chance have some 3-inch screws, that'd work even better. I'm also screwing these on the smaller side at an angle to hopefully grab the fibers of the wood a little bit better. Well, I don't know for sure, but let's give it a shot. With the first 2 in place, I'm now going to take another small one and large one, and of course add some glue to the small one. Then I want to secure those down with a couple screws, then take another long board and secure those as well. Here's what I've gotten so far. I have been alternating the sides as I add these, so you can tell that there's a gap on this side and a gap on this side, because I'm trying to keep these somewhat uniform. As for the small boards, I did have one of them crack on me right there. I was able to glue it back together, so just keep in mind there is a chance for those to crack. Let me show you what I'm getting into here. If you notice, this board is cracked here and here. It's actually broken off if you look at it close there. Now, this is actually the 3rd or 4th one that has started to split and crack on me real bad. What I've discovered, and I kind of figured, is these smaller pieces that we cut off the 2x4, since they're real thin and they're going into end grain, well, it has a tendency to break on us. Now, if we would have used a furring strip, yes, I know it's not a 2x4, there's a good chance that this would have came out a lot nicer. There's less chance of it cracking because you're not going in end grain, going into side grain, and it probably just would have worked better for this project. An actual upgrade from this would probably be a 1x4, and that's because we could cut this to the exact size that we wanted, just like the larger pieces we were using, and have a lot more surface area for those screws to go in and less likely for them to bump into each other. Either way, one of these would probably have been a definite upgrade over this. Now, since I'm having so many issues right now, to start over at this point would be with furring strips would just take a lot of time and a lot of effort. So let's just evaluate what we have so far to see if this is actually starting to work. There's the back side of it. Here is a straight edge. Oh yeah, look at that curve. That is definitely starting to work. And looking at the bottom there, look at that. That's a nice arch. This is really working out nicely. Now, I know that project didn't turn out the exact way we were hoping, but we have to remember, we can't always believe everything we see on the internet. Besides that, at the beginning of this video, I mentioned a great way to preserve your projects just in case you stick them outside. Let me show you. And this is a propane torch on steroids. And this actually connects to your tank that you have on your grill out back where you cook your hot dogs and hamburgers. Right there. That right there will connect to it. You don't have to have any kind of special tank for this. This is awesome. Now, if you're new to this and you're thinking, why would I burn the wood? Well, by burning your wood, making sure it has a nice char on the outside of it helps to prevent it from absorbing moisture. So you can take your standard wood, which would rot relatively quickly outside, and you can actually burn the outside of it and it'll last much, much longer. So let's take this outside and burn something. Now it's a little bit hard to see, but you want to make sure that your wood has almost like a scaling to it, and that way you know it's protected from the elements. As you can see, it's still red hot in there, so it's a good idea to cool this down after you get done. So I'm going to hit this with the hose to make sure it is fully out. Now here's a better look at that scaling process, but just keep in mind, if you touch this, you're gonna get black stuff all over you, so heads up on that. Now keep in mind, if you do this, you are dealing with fire and flames, and there's a good chance you could set stuff on fire and not be able to put it out. So just heads up on that. Also, even though I've hosed this down, I can still hear the wood popping because internally it is still, I guess, simmering or burning within. It's still a little bit warm to the touch even though I hosed this down a ton. So keep that in mind. Once you burn this, you need to make sure you set it to the side and give it a long time, make sure it is out. I hope you enjoyed these projects, and if you did, let me know in the comments, and if you have any suggestions, please list those as well. You'll help out a ton of other people. Otherwise, get out in your shop and have fun building.